Hey, welcome to your Leo horoscopes for the week of September 10th to September 16th. And we're just going to go ahead and kick off the week with the moon. I mean, why not? It's not like you guys haven't had enough to deal with in the last couple of months. Let's just go ahead and kick off the week with the moon, shall we? A moon in opposition with Pluto. We do, of course, still have Venus in Leo. We will continue to have Venus in Leo for a few more weeks here. I do believe actually that Venus moves out of your sign within the first week and a half of next month. So we are going to continue Venus being in Leo. And of course, it's going to be joined by the moon this week. Yay! As the moon moves into your sign in opposition with Pluto right off the bat, focuses on long-term goals. You're trying to put your creativity through those long-term goals. And the moon just sort of comes in, creates a big old emotional mess, like it does, right? In opposition with Pluto, which is still focused on the mind. So what's interesting about this to me is this is a lot of this is all about perception, right? If you look at something as being a huge mess to clean up, you're not exactly motivated to get in there and start cleaning, usually. If you look at something happening as a lesson that you need to take something from, it's a definitely a different energy that you're putting into it. So perception really is everything. I find that I will do literally the exact same thing on 2 different days. One day it's completely stressful and I'm just hating life. The other day it's like no big deal, right? And I'm literally doing the same thing. It's just my mood is really ruling how I'm dealing with that thing, depending on what day it is. So I try to be mindful of that always. I fail sometimes, but I try to be mindful of that always. When I'm driving around doing Grubhub, dealing with traffic and other drivers. I live in California, so they're pretty crazy. Just like you've heard, they are pretty crazy. And, I get really frustrated sometimes. We are known for our road rage and yelling at people and just being downright horrible to each other on the road. And some days I have to remind myself not to do that because I'm just already frustrated about something else. This is just another layer on top of that. Other days, I'm in a pretty good mood. I'm not frustrated. So when somebody cuts me off, I go, oh, you know what? That's probably not a good idea. Rather than, oh my God, how dare you, right? Perception is everything. And your feelings have a lot to do with how you're going to react to it. So if you're still stuck inside of negative feelings, you're always going to have the same reaction. The moon amplifying those feelings doesn't help your situation at all. In fact, most of the time, it distracts from you being able to focus on what you're trying to focus on. But at the same time, stuff happens, right? The lesson here is not to get swept away with your emotions for 3 or 4 months and ignore your goals until then, and then blame everybody else for making you do that. The lesson here is to not get swept away for 2 or 3 months with your emotions. Deal with it. You're mad right now. Go ahead, deal with it. Punch a pillow, do whatever you need to do to release that so that you can refocus on your goals. Your goals are not going to be successful if you're not putting the energy and the work into them. And it doesn't matter what's happening around you. When you point the finger at other people for what they're doing, which is why you're not focused on your goals, no, that is absolutely not going to work out in your favor. Okay. The truth is that pointing the finger at other people is only pointing 3 fingers back. Look at that. 1 finger, 3 fingers are pointing back at me saying, actually, you're using them as an excuse to sit in your fear place and not move forward in your goals. Remember that always. I just blew y'all out of the water. I know. The moon's going to amplify that problem and be a little bit of a problem for the first couple of days of the week. As we move out of that, Venus is still in a square with Jupiter, which is retrograde right now. And that's going to continue throughout the whole rest of the week. Jupiter's focus is on your day-to-day schedule. So, of course, this is going to mean that you don't have a lot of time to focus on those goals. Utilize the time that you have. Okay. I'm just going to tell you guys, I do this all the time. I will say, oh, I've got 2 things going on today, so there's no way I can focus any time on writing, which is baloney, right? If I have 2 appointments, that takes up 2 hours of a 24-hour day, right? That's actually an excuse, and I'm not doing anything good for myself by coming up with those excuses, right? I'm not, even if I'm not pointing the finger at somebody else, I'm simply establishing that in 24 hours, all of my energy is going to be used up in that 2 hours, and that's it. And I have no time for anything else, which is a BS story that I tell myself in order to continue to be lazy, because I enjoy being lazy. Okay. Bottom line here is that just because you don't have the time that you would like to put into it doesn't mean that you don't have the time. Okay. Venus is still in a sextile with Mars pretty much throughout the entire week. The moon moves into conjunction with Mars. This is actually kind of interesting. We start off with the moon in Leo. We end the week with the moon in conjunction with Mars, which is actually moving into this aspect in a favorable way and possibly amplifying it in a favorable way. Possibly not, even though it is a favorable aspect, sometimes bad things have to happen for good things to come out of them. I do get that. Mars focus is on your support system, and the moon's addition to that sort of creates a really emotional connection in terms of your support system. So I feel like while Mars and the moon don't necessarily go together, that kind of feels like anger, which is causing an emotional reaction. Actually, we're specifically talking about someone who we're talking about support. There's a lot of energy going into that support, and there's also a really deep reason for it. This is what the moon is bringing in to influence this sort of thing. So if you're looking for a support for your goals specifically, it may feel like the energy of the support is a little overwhelming to you a little bit, or this person is a bit overwhelming that's coming in to support you, but that may be exactly what you need. And the moon lining up with it towards the end of the week is really going to show you that this is probably exactly what you need in order to move forward with your goals. So no, what we're supposed to do is not always what we want to do. I will put that out there. I haven't had a lot of experience with that. Pardon me, myself. And sometimes there are parts of what we want to do that we don't necessarily want to do that part of it, but it's necessary in order to get to the next part. So this is just what that is. It's really not complicated. It's really not a big, huge deal unless you make it a big, huge deal, unless you make it complicated. So be aware of that as well. So that's what I have for you guys this week. If you love your horoscopes, do click the link in the description and send me a copy. I would really appreciate that. If you are listening rather than viewing, that is ko-fi.com/heavy metal psychic. And of course, bump on over to heavymetalpsychic.com. You can book a reading on the website. You can do all kinds of stuff on the website. Go and check it out. If you have any issues, of course, my email is listed on here somewhere. I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. Thank you so much for coming and watching every single week. I will see you guys next week. In the meantime, you guys, step into your power. No matter how uncomfortable it is, step into your power. You never know what kind of awesome stuff is going to come of that. I'll see you guys next week.